Just a quick note before we dive in. Even if AI helped for some part of this video, however, you can trust that all the information provided is highly dependable. The insights are drawn from the most credible books, authors, and experts, focusing specifically on the principles of growing rich. Because of this carefully curated knowledge, this content is essentially crafted by an expert. People think it takes a computer science degree or years of a technical background to build useful artificial intelligence tools. It doesn't. The real reason most people get stuck is that they fall into the passive learning trap. You watch endless tool reviews and tutorial videos. You feel productive because you are consuming information about productivity, but without applying that information, you aren't actually developing a skill. This chart shows the science of human learning. Passive consumption, watching, listening, and reading, leaves you with about a 10% retention rate. Doing a real task pushes that retention rate to 75%. We are going to bypass the passive trap entirely. By the end of this, you will have a blueprint to construct a fully automated workflow that eliminates one specific daily operational bottleneck from your life. Moving from a passive consumer to a top-tier power user requires an internal algorithm of discipline. You cannot just download a new application. You have to change how you approach the work itself. First, you have to build boundaries around your time. Break your day into rigid segments. You need to isolate your deep study periods from the noise of your basic daily routines. When you sit down to learn these systems, nothing else gets your attention. When studying complex material, people tend to memorize the nouns. They learn the names of the tools or the specific features. But the human brain needs to understand the verbs. You have to know how the pieces interact, move, and connect with one another. This is why you must avoid the constant distraction of weekly model updates. Chasing every new release guarantees that you will end up with mediocre skills across 5 platforms instead of mastery over one. Pick a tool and stick with it. Now, identify your target. Find exactly one specific, highly repetitive, and painful task in your current workflow. Maybe you manually copy client details from a form to a spreadsheet every single Tuesday. That is your learning target. By attaching your learning process to a concrete, high-friction problem, you force yourself to solve a real issue. The technology stops being a novelty and becomes a high-stakes lever to buy back your own time. Once you have your target, you need to instruct the AI. Vague inputs like "write me a summary" get vague, unusable outputs because the machine has to guess what you want. You need a rigid command framework. This chart shows the structure of the craft prompting method. It starts with context, telling the system who you are and the situation. Next, you define the role and the ask. Finally, you set the format and tone, establishing structural output rules. A basic sentence prompt produces a generic wall of text. A fully deployed craft prompt delivers a formatted, targeted result that requires only minor human edits before you can use it. Knowing how to structure a prompt like this separates the people who work for the algorithm from the people who actually direct it. If you let the AI do all the heavy lifting, you strip yourself of the foundational understanding needed to troubleshoot when things go wrong. You have to force yourself to think. To build that understanding, use the Socratic Method. Command the system to withhold the answers entirely. Instead, tell it to act as a tutor and ask you challenging questions to test your grasp of the material. This active retrieval practice introduces serious friction. Your brain has to work hard to recall and explain the steps, but enduring that friction is exactly what permanently cements the logic in your mind. Now we transfer that hard-won logic out of the chat window. We move it into a workflow automator, like Zapier or Make, removing you from the loop entirely. You set up a mechanical connection sequence. First, an inbound trigger catches new data. Second, it routes through the craft-engineered AI step you built. And third, it outputs a final action, like sending an email or updating a spreadsheet. Building this automated pathway takes effort up front, but it yields permanent leverage. The machine now handles the execution, and you reclaim those hours every single week. You have reached the end state. Your daily bottleneck is gone, replaced by a frictionless, self-sustaining system running entirely in the background. You achieved this because you segmented your focus. You endured the friction of Socratic testing to learn the logic. Then you deployed those instructions into a strict, automated framework. You are no longer part of the vast majority of people watching tutorials and endlessly consuming. You have done the work to become an active system builder. If you found this valuable and you want to help others discover it, subscribe to my channel Scientifier and share this video, and visit www.scientifier.com. Now go and apply what you learned, right now.